On today's show, why women will cause a seismic shift in the economy. Part 3 of this week's series on Mother's Day, long-term care series, with long-term care expert Maria Sarchi. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician and InSpark. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome, Maria, day 3.
Thanks, Steve. Day 3 already.
I know, and we're talking about, I'm not talking about a small adjustment. I'm not talking about a modified adjustment. I'm talking about a seismic change in the planet. I mean, think about this. It's possible. 2016, Hillary could be president, first female president, right? Women are dominating the geriatric age group. I mean, they just are. They're living past 100. Look at Willard Scott's show. Yeah. All things are changing. I have to tell you, when I'm thinking about planning, and when I got married almost 40 years ago, I planned for nothing. We were in love. We didn't do anything, but here we are. We started having kids. I didn't care about your plans. I didn't care about anything. The future was ours. Who needs money when you have love? And then when I started having daughters, and those daughters started dating guys, and they came home with a serious bow on their arm, I wanted to know, what's your job? What do you have in the checking account? What's your budget? How do you treat money? All of a sudden I changed.
Fair questions.
And now that we see mom, our mom,
yeah.
We're boomers, us in our late 50s, early 60s, we're looking at our mothers who have been our matriarchs all our life. These are the women we love. And now we're talking about that issue of talking about taking care of her and why the seismic shift of the economy is going this way and we need to move with it. Actually, I say, and Maria, I want you to help us here, I want to get ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing all this week, right, Steve?
Right.
We're out here talking about why it's so important and so critical to help plan for mom's care. For somebody who took care of us as children, for somebody who kept the family dynamic moving and going and prospering, you really want to take a step aside and think about what happens to her. How do I take care of mom the way she took care of me? And it's not meant to do anything from a fear perspective. It's meant to help mom and help the family really make some empowering decisions. And I can't say that enough. It's not going to go away. We can't just look the other way and say, well, maybe it's not going to happen inside of our family, because probability is high that it will. So let's just prepare. Let's just get ready. Let's just talk about what we will do. And there are all kinds of solutions available today that can meet a family's need. But if we don't talk about it, if we don't bring it up, if we don't say to our adult clients, hey, have you thought about a care plan for mom? We're not bringing to them all of the resources that we have available at our fingertips.
My wife and I we just celebrated our 39th anniversary a little while ago, and we were talking about, hey, how do we want to look at last days? Do I want to be cremated? Do I want to go into to the ground? Do I want to be in a funeral parlor? Do I want to have a big funeral, a little small? How do I want to live?
Yeah.
And how can I live at home and stretch my long-term care dollars? Because we've already got our contract. Sure. We already have our policy in place. We're already talking. And by the way, I have to confess, I probably didn't start talking about this until I met Maria, because I said, well, now I just got to bring it and sit down. And when we sit down next time on our 40th, we're going to be talking to our kids.
Yeah.
We're sitting all down.
So important.
This is our desire. This is our will. We're putting our will together for our updating. We're doing all these things because the odds are pretty much that my wife, my children's mother, will outlive me, maybe 8 to 10, maybe 12 years based on action. And that woman is in fantastic shape. So I don't doubt that she might not see mid-90s all day long. We want her to be taken care of. I won't be around because I've lived so badly, you know.
Well, I mean, you bring up a great point. You talk about, look, they're not really easy conversations, right? I mean,
no,
you don't think about sitting at your 39th anniversary dinner and talking about cremation or burial on the ground.
Right.
But it's reality and it's fact. And if we can help move people away from the uncomfortable sense that they might have in those conversations, they might actually find that by making decisions together, including the family, it's a much more stronger and unified decision.
I think some of the siblings that live in the same town as a mother feel like they're the ones that are getting the obligation put on them. The other children are outside the city. They live in another state. They come and visit, once, twice a year. They're not engaged like the sibling that's inside this town with mother.
It's a great way to bring the family together for these conversations, right? I mean, you're not exactly talking about planning a vacation. You are talking about something that will impact all of them. And for an advisor who's working with mom or dad to now have a connection to mom or dad's grown children so that everybody's around the table and they're all on the same page by way of This is how we want to receive care if we have a choice. This is where we'd want to receive care. None of those are bad conversations to have. It might be a little awkward to start, but once you get rolling, once you just put it out there, families want to talk about this.
I think that you just hit on the quintessential start of rules of engagement. What is my first thing I need to get out? What's that first conversation I need to have? What's so important in my thinking? And I think some people don't even know. I say, Mom, what do you think? And she goes, well, what should I think? I don't know what's available. She's still there trying to make her choice.
Yeah. The thing that I've seen work so well over and over again is to ask the client that I'm sitting across from, what is your hope and desire as you enter those later years? Where do you want to receive care? And just let the client talk. They will tell you what they want. You know, there's not a sense now of it's not going to happen to me. It's more of a sense of when and will I be prepared? So just ask it that way, Steve. Say, are you prepared? Are you prepared for a care event? And
I think they're going to say, no, I'm not, and I don't know what I'm doing. When we come back from the break, I want to talk about the impact on generations, not just mom on long-term care. Right. It's generational impact. We'll be right back right after the break. Back in the day, life insurance professionals were called field underwriters. Then, carriers trained their field force in the basics of life insurance underwriting. Today, the insurance industry doesn't educate the agent population as they once did. But now you can have the Informed Risk Guide at your fingertips so you can illustrate a reasonable rate class for your life insurance prospects. Just request your copy of the Informed Risk Guide at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. It's free from Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. In our second segment, I want to talk about the generational impact. Now, obviously, somebody's got to pay for premium or they got to pay for care, which is the cheaper way. Well, we know the answer to that is we need to get long-term care coverage. No, I don't think there's any debate on that. That's the most economic way to leverage it. The question is, who's going to pay for it? Is mom going to pay for it out of her estate money? Is dad going to pay for it before he dies? He has a death benefit going to this. Or are kids going to have to, or baby boomer, like in my case, are we going to pay for our parents or is somebody going to pay for us? How are we going to get this done? But before we say that, they say, well, why should I care? It's my parents' issue. Because there's generational impact down the generational line on long-term care for the patriarchs and matriarchs of our family. And you're not going to be living on an island alone here. Right. You're going to feel the impact of their having to go into a facility or assisted home living.
You know, until you've experienced it, until you've seen what happens when mom or dad or grandma or grandpa need care, until you see how it touches the family on so many different levels, I don't know that an individual will really understand the kind of negative, not only from a financial standpoint, but the emotional toll that it can take. And so as I go out and talk to consumers, I hear over and over again, I need to do some planning. I took care of mother, or my sister took care of my brother, and it's all family relational. And there's no downside at all to putting some situations in play that protect that, so that children don't have to not be able to do after school activities because somebody needs to stay home and keep an eye on grandma in the afternoon because mom's working, or if mom or dad have to take time off of work. Caregivers lose an incredible amount of income every single year because they're providing care to their parents. And so the key behind all of this is raise some awareness. Talk about what the impact is to a family, and don't lose sight of the fact that it can happen to yours. It's not something that happens to somebody else.
I'm shopping for my retirement home, and I've noticed a new category pops up in housing called multi-generational family homes. I never saw it before.
The old mother-daughter, right? It used to be called a mother-daughter.
So I walked in and said, they all have two masters. And I'm thinking, no, why do you need two masters? Well, because your mom and dad are living in the other one. And so I walked in, and all these things are already prepped for geriatric lifestyle, gerontology.
Everybody's thinking about it.
Definitely. And my question is, okay, let's say we're down the line. We see the generational impact. And I want to do my best so that I can. The baby boomers have been the sandwich generation. We've been in between. We have our children, they have tuition, we want to see them go to their games, but we love our mom and dad, and they're older than us, and we're right in the middle. We're paying for long-term care expenses, we're paying for college, and now we have nothing for retirement for ourselves. And people, that's why they want to withdraw. And so how can I make the people who are paying this? There's a multi-generational impact here.
There is, and you said something key about withdrawing. we can't withdraw from it. We have to run head on into it to find the right solutions. Because when you are spending money for tuition and you're spending money for parental long-term care, you have to be thinking about yourself. I mean, I'm a mom myself. I've got 3 children. They're all fairly young. But I think about my future, and I think about what I want for them and what I don't want for them. And I know how I want to live my life. And my children are there to share in the joys with me and, of course, the hard times. But I don't want to have to force them into situations of caring for me when I have the ability to put some decisions in play today that give all of us a whole lot of freedom later on.
Well, you just brought up a mother's heart because you have totally ID'd the issue of the maternal angst for her children. And that means that she always sets aside her own future. She always sets aside her own needs because she loves her children so much. Well, Mom's been doing that for a long time. We're doing this in tribute to Mother's Day. And it's our time for payback. And it's out of the heart. We're not doing this out of obligation. We're doing this out of the heart. People have helped us, and the number one helper in our life has been our mom.
Yeah. And so now it's her turn.
And her turn to receive,
That's
receive.
Right. That's right.
I think it's really a unique opportunity to change the way we talk about long-term care, the way we talk about extended care coverage, and the way we talk about later in life living. What is that lifestyle going to look like? When you started this down on Monday, on Monday's show, I'm thinking, yeah, what does that look like for the savant? What am I going to be looking like? Am I going to be okay in my health? Am I going to need certain assistance? And tomorrow when we get into it, I have to touch on some of the ADL issues. I mean, I went through the ADL for the first time for me. Instead of looking at it as a contract, which I've been doing for the last 20 years of my 30-year career, I looked at it, what if I can't do what?
Yeah.
I was embarrassed.
Steve, what if we took the letters LTC that normally stands for long-term care, and what if they stood for a lifestyle to continue, right? Would people be more apt to want to plan to have a lifestyle to continue as opposed to long-term care?
Well, is this another Maria-ism?
It might be.
Because I'm still back at your later in life living. Now you're just adding a new conversation to it. LTC stands for?
Lifestyle to continue.
I like it. I want my lifestyle to continue. Question though, can it?
It can. It can. All it takes is planning. There may be some things that are out of our control. There may be a time where we can't actually move around the way that we want. But if we can't control that because of a physical ailment, but we can control where we receive that care, isn't that still having a lifestyle to continue?
Any attempt to maintain the lifestyle that we live now, I think, is a high priority, no matter if you're male or female. But because women are more impacted by this than anybody else, I'm wondering if Mom is sitting there listening to a show like this today and saying, this is a conversation I want to have with my children. This is a conversation I want my advisor to help me walk through with them. I think that's a key issue. Well, that's all the time we have today for our show. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or broker-dealer compliance department. Missed an episode? You can view any of our past episodes at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Silver. I'll see you.